Here's a tweet from Darian. So impressed seeing a screening of Dark Waters, powerful, gripping, real-life story of the man who fought DuPont over cancer-causing chemicals in Teflon. He is a hero, and this is a must-see film. Joining us now is Oscar-winning actor, director, producer, and writer Tim Robbins, one of the stars of the new film Dark Waters. Welcome.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So can you start off by just telling us a little bit about the real-life story that this movie is based on?
Well, there's a guy, I hold him to be a hero, named Rob BILOTT, a lawyer who was working in a law firm that actually represented chemical companies. And someone who knew his grandmother came with a bunch of evidence about some pollution that DuPont was doing at a place called Dry Run. And Rob took the case on, I play his boss, who allows it somehow in this culture. He allows this lawsuit to go on. Mm-hmm. He supports it. And Rob works for, played by Mark Ruffalo, works for 20 years to try to get some settlement on this incredible pollution caused by this, it's called these forever chemicals. They go into the water system and never leave. And I don't know if you remember, but there was a case, this was Rob's case, about Teflon. Mm-hmm. And Teflon being toxic and being cancer-causing and causing a lot of ill effects on all the people that were working at DuPont and around that area.
Well, we have a clip of your performance in the film, which we saw last night. It's really fantastic, so let's take a look.
Has anyone even read the evidence this man has collected? The willful negligence, the corruption? Read it! And then tell me we should be sitting on our asses. That's the reason why Americans hate lawyers. This is the crap that fuels the Ralph Naders of the world. We should want to nail DuPont.
So you play Mark Ruffalo's boss in the film. Mm-hmm. What was it like working with him?
Mark's great. I've done a couple. I did another movie with him called Thanks for Sharing. I've known him for a long time. He's one of the rare actors in Hollywood, in my opinion, that not only is a great actor, but takes the position that we're all so lucky to have, and uses it for other people's good, working for water rights throughout the country, working to ban fracking. Front page of the New York Times today. EPA is now trying to void any scientific studies made in the past that have linked chemicals or pollution to cancer.
Wow.
So now basically saying all your studies from the past, all your science is null and void. This is the Environmental Protection Agency is now turning into a full-on arm of regulation, of anti-regulation for the chemical industry. And so Rob worked for 20 years on this thing, got the largest sampling of blood from people affected by this forever chemical. And now his study that took 15 years is now going to be voided if the EPA is able to do what they're trying to do right now. It's criminal. And the people that are going to suffer are us. Yeah. And that's not just us that might be against this administration, us, all of us. Republican, Democrat, it doesn't, this chemical does not discriminate what kind of bloodstream it goes into.
And in your film, it takes place 20 years ago, and that's when we're first discovering about the chemical impact of this at the very beginning stages. What other parallels do you see back then that are happening today beyond today's New York Times article?
Well, there's always been a willful attempt by industry to try to regulate itself. And I think what we've found again and again and again is that they're not capable of regulating themselves. The EPA didn't even exist until the 70s, so all the chemicals that existed before the 70s haven't even been studied. So this is one of the revelations that Rob BILOTT found in his research on this, was that there are chemicals that are maybe having detrimental effects on us, on nature, for many, many generations to come that have not even been studied to be regulated. And now the EPA wants to take away all the studies that were done to protect us in the effort of what? Profit? It's just, it's insane the amount of criminality that's going on. and it's completely unchecked. We don't seem to care. We don't seem to want to regulate this. We don't seem to want to change things. And so let's get angry about this. Let's put this on the Twitterverse.
Well, we do want to talk about some of your other work, and it, of course, is the 25th anniversary of the Shawshank Redemption. Do you have any favorite memories from filming with Morgan Freeman?
I do. Very many memories of filming with Morgan, and it was a wonderful experience. But actually, the experience post it coming out has been even better, because the movie is like the little engine that could. It wasn't really recognized when it came out, but now it's the top film on IMDb, and it's everywhere I go. People come up to me and tell me how important that film was to them, and how it's changed their life or changed their direction and the way they thought about things, and that's pretty rare. And I feel really blessed by that.
Well, we're in such a moment where there are so many remakes and reboots. Would you ever want to see a reboot?
Oh, God, no. They have gotten. They just apparently tried to do it with Jacob's Ladder, and I'm not sure they succeeded. Listen, John Huston, a great filmmaker, used to say, "Why do they remake good films? Let's remake the bad ones, the good ones."
let it just be on its own in history. Well, one of the things you also mentioned is that, this movie really makes people think. And so how did working on it impact your own relationship with the criminal justice system and the way you were thinking about it?
On Shawshank?
Yeah.
Well, since I have a long relationship with that from the time I was young, I grew up in New York City. There but for the grace of God go I. I had friends that wound up in the criminal justice system. And so I never felt that far removed from it. And so that when Shawshank came, it was an opportunity to tell a story that was not the ordinary story of, all the bad guys and how dangerous it is. And that's the way we tend to look at criminal justice in our films and our television shows. I do a program inside prisons in California. We go in and do rehabilitative programs with men and women that are incarcerated. And I've met so many people with human potential, people that are in there for draconian sentences, 40 years for possession of pot because of a 3-strike rule. I mean, come on. They're but for the grace of God go I. Or, how many people are guilty in this society right now of crimes that have been sentenced to long sentences that are serving right now. And if you're going to talk about legalizing marijuana, let's talk about voiding the sentences of people that are in jail for possession of marijuana.
Well, you also wrote and directed the film Dead Man Walking about the death penalty. How do you feel seeing cases around the death penalty right now, especially like Rodney Reed? That one's been in the news.
Yeah, it's a continuing problem. It's gotten somewhat better, but as you see, there's been this, it's like waves like this. They're reintroducing all these cases. Listen, I don't believe that the state has the right to take anyone's life for a number of reasons. I can understand retribution on a personal level. As I have kids, I understand the anger of the victims' families. But it's not our right to ask someone that works for the state, a correctional officer, to participate in the death of a human being. That, for me, is a moral line I can't cross. You cannot ask someone to participate in someone's murder. It goes against all morality in my mind. And let's just be honest, this penalty will never be administered equally in this country. If you have money, you're going to get off. If you do not have money, you are much more likely to be executed in the current system. And that is another reason why I think it's unfair and should not be, we shouldn't be participating in this. Most civilized countries don't have the death penalty. Why do we feel the need to do it?
Well, staying on some topics in the news, you are an outspoken Bernie Sanders supporter. So why does he appeal to you?
He's been who he is for a long, long time. And he doesn't change his policies because he's running for president, as we're so used to seeing. People, kind of swaying one way to get a certain vote, saying things that they feel will get votes. Bernie's been who he is for as long as he has been alive. And I want to support that. I want to support an honest person that is trying to change things. And as he says, it's not about him. It's about all of us. And it's not going to happen without all of us rallying behind this kind of the ideas that he has proposed. Why is it? Why do we feel in this country every time we get sick that this is going to compromise our well-being, not just our health, but whether we can afford our apartment, whether we can afford food? It's inhumane that we live in a society like that. That everyone's fearful of going broke because they get sick. That's crazy. And there's any number of things. Student debt that is crippling people from getting a good start, a leg up in life. Just the possibility of trying to get out of debt in this country is a daunting task. So yes, there's certain inequalities that have to be addressed. The environment, the Green New Deal. This has to happen now. I don't know if you're aware of it. I'm sure you are. But
we're in trouble.
There's a lot of bad stuff happening. And it ain't no accident. And it's no. It's again so sad to see on the front page of the New York Times again. This government going after scientists who have done meticulous work to try to make our lives safer and are still pushing, trying to change things that have been protecting us. Listen, I moved out into Los Angeles for college in the early 80s, and it was dark. The smog was there. Guess what happened over the last 30 years? It got cleaner. Why? Because California had the most progressive legislation on emissions control. That actually works. Science actually works, folks. It's something that indicates a problem, and then we as humans, we have to solve the problem. And if we deny science, this problem is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And before you know it, we're not going to be able to solve it. So it's time to in my opinion, support candidates that really get that. Really get that.
Yeah. Do you feel like the Democratic Party is doing right by Bernie Sanders in this election cycle?
Absolutely not. Well, let's put it this way. Let's wait for the first vote, okay? Then we'll see what democracy is, okay? Because right now, I saw something, there was a picture on the internet yesterday of MSNBC panel, and they showed all the candidates coming up. Bernie wasn't even on there. He's one of the top 3 candidates. He's being erased in a lot of the coverage. They're like, let's talk about Warren and Biden. Wait a second, guys. There's a guy here that has more supporters than both of those people, more contributors, and he's not being talked about. Yes, I think it's time to, in a way, I think the equalization, the democratization of information that Twitter and other social media have is absolutely essential right now, because the narrative out there is not expressing the truth, in my opinion. And I feel I get more of that truth in social media.
Well, speaking of social media, I have to ask you about a profile I read earlier this week of you in the Times where you yelled at Henry Kissinger, called him a war criminal from your car. Is that correct?
I did, and I was with my son at the time, who was pretty young, but I saw him coming out of a restaurant in Santa Monica in California. And it was the first thing that came out of my mouth. I rolled down the window.
And you just let it out.
And I had an opportunity to say something to someone who was a war criminal, and I called him a war criminal.
And that reminded me of a recent controversy with Ellen DeGeneres and George W. Bush, where people were mad that she didn't say anything to him while they were sitting at a football game. Were you following that controversy, and what were your thoughts on it?
Listen, she didn't not just say anything to him. She accepted an invitation from him.
Yeah.
So that's, listen. I'm all for going across aisles and making peace with people. But there's certain people that are walking around right now that are responsible for a lot of death. Yeah. He being one of them. That is, for me, something he has never reckoned with, never taken responsibility for. And Henry Kissinger is another one of those people that seem to be living in this kind of elite bubble where it's all okay. You can do whatever the hell you want to in your life, pay no ramifications. But I'm sorry, I work with people in prison that have done a lot less than that, that are spending years and years, if not their entire lives in prison for offenses, and they're paying for it. They know what they've done, and they've accepted responsibility for it. Meanwhile, you have people going to football games and everything's fine. And they're oh, isn't it cute? No, it's not cute. There's 1 million people that died from that war. There's a refugee crisis that is still raging across Europe because of that war. And no one's taken any responsibility. And by the way, Tony Blair's in the same boat.
Yeah.
He should be, these people are allowed to do this because we, as a society, don't demand any kind of ramifications for it. We don't demand that they take responsibility for it. And what does that lead to? That leads to more behavior like that. That's going to continue on and on and on as long as these people are allowed to just skate.
Yeah, and they have to watch out for you driving down the street screaming war criminal now.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to think about that every time I'm in Los Angeles.
I'll get you.
Yeah, you really will. Well, thank you so much for being here. It's been great catching up and talking about all the things, and your film is wonderful. Dark Waters is in theaters in New York and Los Angeles on November 22nd and everywhere on December 6th. More AMTDM is up next.